That one glorious word represents more than just the geography between the Sabine and the Rio Grande. It represents a unique idea and way of life. A life of rugged individualism, proud self-reliance, gritty toughness, and fierce independence. That is what made Texas, and that is what will save her again. Howdy, folks. Sam Houston here. I want to thank you for tuning into the Feed Bandit podcast. Feed Bandit is the Texas first outdoors brand built by rabid Texans, for rabid Texans, and all those who aim to be one someday. We unapologetically promote the ideals that shape our Texas pride and Texas first patriotism through our love of hunting, the outdoors, and the gear and apparel we create. Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Check us out at feedbandit.com. And to repeat that great rallying cry from a former colleague of mine, liberty or death. Now, enough of my talking. Here are a couple of bandits that love Texas as much as I do. Enjoy.
Howdy, friend. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit podcast. Jimmy back with you. And on this one, we're going to continue our series on predator strategies. If you'll recall, we've been going through a book I found some time back at Half Price Books. You can find a lot of good hunting books at a Half Price Books, believe it or not. This one's called Predator Calling with Jerry Blair. And where we left off was Chapter 8. It's called The Scream. Some who read this might recall I once wrote a question and answer column for the old Trapper magazine, later retitled Trapper and Predator Caller. The question most often asked concerned some aspects of the distress scream. That plethora of questions often asked but never answered to my satisfaction because of space considerations within that format caused me to believe it to be worthwhile to devote an entire chapter to that sometimes puzzling part of predator calling. Knowing that the mind-boggling assortment of predator-fetching screams available can cause confusion, permit me to say I do not believe that the smartest predator that is, or once was, will categorize a distress scream. Simply put, the predator brain is not constructed to do so. Actually, has no need to do so. Confused? Well, me too. Permit me to explain. I do not believe a predator will evaluate a rabbit distress scream, maybe thinking, well, hell farth, being a southern sort of critter. That sounds to be a distressed cottontail rabbit, and I ain't tooth a canejo since Hector was a pup. I reckon I might gallop on over and steal a meal. It is more likely the predator will recognize the distress scream as a signal of vulnerability from a creature that might be tasty, a meal needed to provide protein. Having said such, I feel it's important to also say a change of distress scream can cause success. The critters I have met have been somewhat naive but have not been stupid. A coyote, or about any of the meat eaters, has the ability to learn from experience. A predator that has raced to investigate a scream can be mighty disappointed to learn the, quote, rabbit weighs about 200 pounds and points a stick that goes bang. Even so, one bad experience does not often cause a hungry predator to forsake distress screams forever. He does not because he cannot. A carpenter who hammers his finger may say drat and darmody, but will not often retire his saw and hammer. He will instead become more cautious. A predator will often react precisely the same. He will not give up on distressed animals because that is an important part of his groceries. But even a middling sort of predator will become more cautious, perhaps to the point that he or she will not respond to the same sounding distress scream. That same predator may respond enthusiastically to a distress scream that sounds to be different. A strong asset of the battery-powered player, the way I see it, is the inherent ability to send out a diversity of screams, some actual and some simulated. Those who scream using lung power and a reeded call can produce an amazing variety of sound. The PhD predator described above might also respond when an aspect of the scream changes enough to add interest. This change may be accomplished by changing calls, changing reeds, or changing the way a call is sounded. As has been noted, those who scream use an open-reeded call can change pitch and tone significantly. Moving the lips along the exposed reed can produce the high tenor of a pup distress, or the gravelly baritone of a distressed jackrabbit or a gray fox. The mouth has total control over volume and total control over spacing and rhythm. I once used a part of that versatility to call a coyote to trade his pelt for a taste of the tube. I was screaming prairie land that lay to the north of the multiple-mile-high San Francisco peaks. I had called this juniper-dotted country many times over a period of years, and had almost always enjoyed action of some sort. On this day, a survivor of that action remained discreet within a juniper thicket and howled insult after insult. Blair word. I was screaming through a metal-reeded tube, tuned from the extremely hard to extremely handsome desert ironwood, such turned and tuned by master call maker J. Nistetter from Rhino Calls or Blow a Rhino. My screams were the usual cast of characters, rhythmic screams of medium volume and medium character, the kind of screams the coyote had learned to expect from a distressed rabbit or a distressed hare. The kind of screams that the coyote had learned to hate. After 15 or 20 minutes of this all talk and no walk, I removed the call from my mouth and offered the howler a couple of minutes of unadulterated silence. Time enough to cause old Motormouth to become curious and perhaps a bit nervous, maybe even hungry. I returned the screamer to my mouth and sent out a series of low-volume moans, each moan lasting about twice as long as the previous scream. Each moan slowly spaced. 5 minutes later, I sighted a coyote coming my way. Coming not at a gallop, not at a lope, but coming at a slow and deliberate creep. When the dock was 150 yards out, I stoked the 3-pound trigger of the 22-250, and the Seiko bellowed out a hello and goodbye. It was the howler? I don't know. I don't know that the howling stopped when the moaning began. Circumstantial evidence. I'm thinking all of us have experienced instances when the most appropriate thing to say is nothing at all. I have used that technique also to put the hurt to a customer who has become a hemorrhoid. I was hunting the high plains of northern Arizona during a December day. I sang my song for the usual 15 minutes and called using the usual volume and spacing. When El Coyote did not respond, I ceased screaming but did not walk away. 15 minutes later, the paranoid came at the sneak. I did as I usually do when toting the 2250, and when a coyote wearing a $100 hair coat stands broadside 100 yards out, giving me the bad eye. How did I know what not to say? Well, observation, consideration, and recollection. I had called the same country early in the season. I was hunkered on a lava blow to gain a bit of altitude and did my thing. When nothing showed, I moved about a mile away. I sat upon a second lava blow and glassed the countryside as I waited for the prairie to settle down. The Bausch and Lombs revealed a pissant wearing a coyote coat sniffing around the butte I had previously screamed. I observed, considered, remembered, and managed to skin the bashful coyote. Are you ready for the punchline? Stay alert and stay alert. You can bet your fur Check the Target will do exactly that. The hunter, if he or she is to level the playing field, must do the same. Now might be the proper time to confess a truth. Jerry Blair would not be likely to win a contest calling event. Why so? Because that old sumbitch of a beastmaster sounds too much like a distressed rabbit. Contest judges, by my own self included, do not often appreciate the monotonous wah, 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 articulated by a troubled cottontail. How do I know exactly how a distressed rabbit sounds? I've listened and learned from more than a few, most such having a foot hooked within a firm jaw of a number 2 coil at the time. All observed would emit a monotonous wah, 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 that wah, wah, articulated with passion, with a drop of blood dripping from each wah, will at times call coyote, fox, bobcat, and about everything within ears. Trouble is, it does not require a high degree of calling skill to do so. Contest judges listen for trills, growls, quavers, and all else. Having said such, honesty requires me to say that creative calling will impress judges and also call critters. It is that creative screaming more effective than the basic wah, wah, wah? Don't know. Maybe so. Some critters have been wah, wah, washed until they are sick of the sound. Innovative calling, being a sound that is less often heard, might cause a paranoid predator to get off his butt and head for the gun. Rich and Tyler Higgins are a father and son team of screamers who have extended the art of creative calling tremendously. I sincerely suggest you pay close attention to the chapter that follows, such titled Hard Hunting, to gain an insight into current calling conditions and the Huggins solution. Further on, Rich will share his insights into coyote communications. I never do a screaming with a single call dangling from a lanyard. To do so invites disappointment, can cause missed opportunities, and will almost surely result in an educated coyote. Allow me to provide a for instance. I was calling a pushdown within northern Arizona when my first disappointment, a missed opportunity, and education occurred. A California storm front had passed through, bringing snow and cold. The radio within my truck claimed the temperature to be 8 under. Don't get that cold in Arizona, you say? Ha! I respond, been there, done that, and have the frostbite to prove it. The dawn stand produced a sight seldom seen that late in the season. A gang of hungry coyote responding 2 minutes after the first scream. Trouble was, they hung up 500 yards out. I counted 5 coyote and heard the howls of 2 more. Jackpot. I placed the end of the metal-reeded wood cercate within my mouth and attempted to wah wah the group to sure kill range, figuring I might harvest at least one and maybe more. Even though I blew a wah wah into the tube, the sound that came out of the tube was downright beastly. The coyote family thought so too, shifting to overdrive and racing for the Coconino-Mojave County line. What happened? Moisture within my breath had hit the extremely cold metal reed and had frozen such shot. Purists within the readership might wonder why 5 yodelers would cluster. Winter coyote will do so occasionally. Hunting as a game offers a hunting advantage, allowing the group to take down prey too large for a single or even double coyote. In this instance, the gang of 5 probably gathered for a different reason. Later that day, I discovered a black Angus carcass less than a mile away from the screaming. The crowd, I speculate, were involved in a communal pig-out, actually a beef-out. If one call is too few, how many calls are too many? I'm not sure. I do recall a Globe, Arizona hunter who crossed my path during a screaming within the coyote-rich San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation. The Globe guy turned out to be a call collector, and had his collection hanging from his neck. Even though it was late in the day, I noticed he carried a hell of a lot of calls, but did not carry a coyote. Even so, it is better, I think, to carry too many calls rather than carry too few. Sad experience has caused me to carry backup calls, maybe as many as 4 or 5. Such offers a versatility of screams and offers a ready replacement when the main screamer calls in sick. I began this chapter discussing the kind of scream I most often use to attract predators and some prey, freely admitting my limitations as a creative screamer. At another place within this book, my friends Rich and Tyler Higgins will discuss creative calling and their experience at calling contest events and screaming to critters. Rich and Tyler will reveal the technique they have used to win the hearts of judges, win trophies, and win pelts. Another friend, yes, I have more than one, being a call maker, Jay Nistetter of Rhino Calls, will discuss call collecting. Finally, Fred Kronk, owner and CEO of Arizona Calls, yet another friend, will reveal another insight. I humbly ask that you pay close attention to what these talented hunters have to offer. There's likely to be a test later. Ooh! All right. So that was screaming. Interesting. Yeah, typically the one I have, and I only have one, so I'm already violating his suggestion of having multiple calls. Well, no, that's not true. If you count the app on my phone, then I have many on there. But as far as like a handheld blow, like a call for the mouth, I only have one. So I should probably get a few more. And that one is the wah, wah. So it's still fun to blow and do, But the next one we're going to talk about is howling and howlers. There are those who are convinced that coyotes howl just for the hell of it. The yips, yodels, and howls heard through most of the West and part of the East at dawn and dusk, to them, come from the throats of animals so full of themselves that they just have to tell the world of it. Even though I do not usually comment on such anthropomorphic drivel unless specifically invited to do so, my experience causes me to think exactly the opposite. No wild critter I've met makes any kind of noise without good reason. They do not gossip and prattle, they cannot afford to do so. Those who earn a living as hunters, and at times reluctantly accept a change of roles to become the hunted, cannot be much of a blabbermouth. To do so can cause prey animals to be alerted. To do so causes those higher on the food chain to have an improved target. Articulation to a critter is a basic of communication. Even though few humans understand every nuance of the coyote language, it is probable each sound carries a specific message to another coyote. Dawn and dusk howling is the coyote vocalizations most often heard. Those sing-alongs are mostly territorial in nature. Coyote have found a survival advantage to the homesteading a particular territory and then defending that territory from poachers and other encroachers. A territorial coyote, often a territorial pair, learn about every aspect of their piece of ground. That knowledge can cause a critical advantage when it comes time to search out groceries or to escape when a hunter comes to call. The howling announces continued residency to the coyote in adjoining territory. Such non-aggressive territorial claims reduce confrontation between neighbors. How do I know all this? I read and I observe. Wildlife professionals and those who aspire to be such sometimes fit captured critters with a radio telemetry device that allows a discreet spying when the animal is released to the wild. One such Peking Tom conducted a territorial study involving certain coyote within a favored coyote habitat. Nope, not Anderson Mesa, but the pinyon juniper woodlands surrounding the Mesa uplift. One such coyote, tagged as number 97, a handsome male trapped near the Wildcat Canyon mud tank, was released to the wild when he was a vigorous 2-year-old. That dog became wise in the ways of survival. Lived to the ripe old age of 7 years plus. Number 97 suffered through a really bad day during the winter of his 7th year. It happened this way. I was in the pushdown slightly to the east of Wildcat Tank to scream at a winter coyote. Prime pelts from this high country habitat brought big dollars from the fur trade, an inducement that added incentive to my hunting activity. Unfortunately, I think the fur trade right now is not very lucrative, but that's not a reason not to do what we're advocating here. I was there with a Flagstaff City Police supervisor to demonstrate my hunting and screaming technique. We set up to the front of a pile of push-down stringbark junipers and started the screaming. Minutes later, number 97 charged into view, handsome in the prime of his coyotehood. I lip-squeaked to stop the gallop, carefully sighted upon the place behind the shoulder, and midway between back and chest bottom, and stroked. Number 97 died well. Noticing the ear tag, I made an inquiry and learned a bit about 97's reputation. A wildlife biology major from Northern Arizona University had trapped an ear tag number 97 when he was 2 years old. The coyote, not the biology major. Released, the coyote established dominance, took a mate, and did coyote things for the next 5 years, entirely within about a 3 square mile area surrounding Wildcat Tank. That same study established a fact of coyote territoriality. A coyote identified as Coyote A was territorial. Coyote B occupied an adjoining territory. Both were fitted with transmitter calls. Coyote A and Coyote B honored rigid territorial boundaries for all of Coyote A's life. Finally, the radio collar attached to the neck of Coyote A sent a sad message. Coyote A had stopped moving about and was presumed to be dead. Coyote B, sending out his territorial howlings and receiving no answer from Ol' A, trotted over into A's territory to have a walkabout. Dawn and dusk howls and howls at other times can communicate circumstances to other territoriality. Such can announce degree of dominance, gender, and even sexual receptivity. Through much of their range, particularly when coyote populations are crowded, only the most dominant of coyote pairs are permitted to breed. Coyote, like other wild dogs, mate pretty much for life, or at least until one of the pair dies or loses dominance. A dominant female who has lost a mate, or who has one who is too old to shake the sugar tree, may announce her needs to surrounding ears. It does not take long for handsome Harrys to come at the gallop. An easily identifiable coyote vocalization is the distress yip, sometimes called the pup distress. These high-pitched herdings signal trouble and ask for help. I have heard distress yipping when a dominant coyote disciplines a submissive. Politically correct body posture, the avoidance of eye contact and a slinking posture, at times laying on the back with belly and throat exposed, combined with the yipping, can communicate complete submission. I've also heard the distress yips when a coyote suffers a poor hit from rifle or shotgun. The coyote vocalizations mentioned above, the territorial howl, called the challenge howl or the dominance howl by some, the female invitation or the love invite, woo, and the distress yip or pup distress, are those most helpful to the coyote hunter. I have used all three to cause a coyote to come close. The territorial howl can be used to attract dominant male coyote during the dogging season that begins here in the southwest about the last of February and is likely to begin later in latitude as latitude changes. I believe here, and I could be wrong, I'll have to look this up, that would be, of course, Texas is so tall latitude-wise, but I think in central Texas, it's somewhere in the March to April time frame, but I could be wrong. I have to look that up. Dominant dogs have come running to the challenge during that season. I've had less luck howling in coyote outside the breeding season. I use the dominance howl then mainly as a locator call, relying on the following technique. Even though it is illegal to shoot coyote during the dark here, or at least in Arizona, also illegal in many other western states and within some eastern and midwestern states, I'm glad we live in Texas, I find it helpful to drive through good coyote habitat during the dark, stopping to howl about every mile, using my natural voice, a howler, or playing a howl tape through a electronic collar. Experience has suggested a wait of 5 to 10 minutes after each howling as some response is delayed. Howlbacks are noted as to mileage or milepost and direction. Some howl sites produce a multiple response. That information is also noted. When daylight comes, I retrace the route, setting up to call to howlbacks. A number of advantages accrue. Having heard the recent howl, I am somewhat certain there is a coyote within hearing to be called. Having pinpointed the location, I'm able to set up using that knowledge to good advantage. I choose a hide that causes wind direction to be beneficial and that offers vision and shooting lanes located along probable approach. The female invitation howl, like the dominance howl, is most effective during the dogging season. Use then the howl as a dandy way to bring in males at a gallop. The pup distress is also most effective during the time pups are at the den and within the company of mom and pop, maybe April through September, at least there, maybe a little later here in Texas. The adults respond, I think, because they fear a creature is munching on junior or sis. They come to protect. The pup distress can be used effectively throughout the year, although response will be less vigorous than during the pupping period. The pup distress correctly used, can be a call for all seasons. Imagination will extend the usefulness of the pup distress. A report of an actual hunting experience illustrates. I was screaming to a pinyon juniper hillside during the early season hunt, hoping to fetch in a dumb pup or two. Dispersal happens about then, and nearly adult-sized pups of the year have the typical teenage appetite. Most lack sophistication. Even though the pelts obtained from early October coyotes are not 100% prime, the leather being still somewhat gray, the underfur and the guard hair are well developed, cooperating to produce a saleable pelt. I was 3 or 4 minutes into the stand when I sighted a flash of fur coming at the gallop, actually 2 flashes of fur racing to the scream. Trouble. The lead coyote was at least 100 yards ahead of the trailer, causing it to be difficult to take both. I did as I usually do under similar circumstances. I waited until the leader passed behind a string-bark juniper and used that opportunity to shoulder the Seiko, centering the small X of the duplex 6 at about expected reappearance. When the coyote showed in sight, I lip-squeaked, or did the kiss of death, to cause the critter to stop. A second later, the sight was centered on the critter's necessaries, back of the shoulder and about midway between back and brisket. Death came a trigger twitch later. Moving fast, I shifted to pick up the trailer, now running desperately for home and mother. No shot. Almost by instinct, I used my natural voice to send out a decent pup distress screaming. The runner slowed, stopped, and started the circle, hoping to taste the wind. When the coyote stopped 200 yards out to deliver the bad eye, I braced my elbows across my drawn-up knees, sighted, and took the shot. The pup distress screaming caused my fur production to double on that stand. I will make no effort to describe the sounds involved in the various coyote language, knowing that such description is not at all that helpful. I suggest instead that those who are serious about howling invest in one of the howl instruction recordings. See the listing at the end of this book for recommended sources. All right. Well, my recommended source is just go to the App Store on your phone and type in predator calls or hunting calls or anything like that, and you'll find any number of apps that you can download to take out there and connect to like a big Bose speaker or something like that while you're out there and have a bunch of fun. But that's a lot of interesting information about the about screaming and then the various the howls. You know, the territorial howl, the female invitation howl, and the pup distress. I guess, yeah, knowing when to use them best, it helps. Territorial, of course, at all time, but the female while they're breeding, in breeding season, that's got to get them all worked up. I'm gonna focus on that one next year. That'll work during turkey season, I would imagine, spring turkey season. So that'll be fun, and the pup distress. So yeah, that'll be really fun to do. Okay, folks. I hope you're enjoying this series, this predator hunting series. I've been learning a lot. I hope you are too. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this one. Remember, let's see here. When this comes out, my God, we're almost going to be to dove season. So, I hope you're gearing up and getting excited. And I'll just leave you with that. And along those lines of gearing up and getting excited, remember, support your local feed store if you can at all costs. Buy your gear from them. They need your help so that they can be there for when you need them when you're in the field. All right, we all take care, and I'll talk to you on the next one.
Well, I hope the bandits gave you an interesting episode that either entertained or educated you. Or better yet, both. Hell, I told them this podcasting thing looks harder to do than defeating Santa Anna. So if you would, please help them out by sharing it with all your like-minded friends to help the bandits get the word out. And don't forget to check us out at feedbandit.com and grab some gear and apparel to support the cause of Texas. Remember, Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Finally, as I said some time ago on the eve of the great battle, and I vigorously repeat here again, be men, be free men, that your children may bless their father's name. Well, fellow bandit, until next time.